Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tomeo.
Good Monday morning. It is September 1st, 2025, and you're listening to a special edition of Catholic Connection on the EWTN radio network. And because it is a federal holiday, it's Labor Day, we have a day off, but we're still bringing you a very special program. And this is a kind of program really to help you wrap up summer, because unofficially, the Labor Day weekend does end summer unofficially again. But I spent some time with some wonderful folks at the Grand Hotel Getaway not too long ago in the beginning of August, taking a look at the issue of travel, of pilgrimage, of experience outside of our comfort zone, outside of our parish. And that included interviews with John Hale, who'll be first up this morning. He's the president of Corporal Travel Service out of southeastern Michigan. And then Father Leo Patalinghug, Chris Martin from the Rome Boys, and in the second hour of the program, even more interesting interviews on why we need to take time away from our usual surroundings and circumstances to grow closer to the Lord and His Church. It's going to be a great Labor Day program, beginning with my friend John Hale from Corporate Travel. Well, it's always an honor I call him my little brother because we are family. We've been working together for well over 20 years. John Hale, president of Corporate Travel. And I know you're not 60 yet, but you're celebrating 60 years of corporate travel. How does that feel? And you've been with the company for how long?
Going on, over 25 years.
Because you were in the law business before. You were an attorney.
I practiced law for about 8 years. And my father-in-law, Joe DeFranco, founded our business 60 years ago. He was an educator who really believed in the power of experiences. And, obviously we have to learn in the classroom, but he felt like his students could learn more by going and seeing and doing. And so he began organizing travel first for teachers so that they could be educated, and then for students. And then it just was off and running. And God continues to bless us through ups and downs. But so it's a real privilege to be part of this company. My brother-in-law, David DeFranco, and I have owned it since 2008, and we've been part of the company since the late 1990s.
Wow. Yeah. And so looking back over the years, and you think about what I think is really amazing, what's so unique about corporate travel, is that you think of a travel agency, and you think more specifically just for trips or tours, but you've broken into so many different arenas: the Good News Conference, the Good News Cruise, the Grand Hotel Getaway. I mean, there's so much more. Just go to the website, ctscentral.net. What was in your minds, you and David, that you thought we need to do the tours and the pilgrimages, which are great, but then you also have a unique, I think, footprint in an area of evangelization that I think is unique for travel agencies?
Teresa, I really think it's how God works through each of us, and you can look backward and see His hand. And just bringing David and I together, of all the family members, we both love experiences. I mean, David is an accomplished beekeeper, winemaker, chef, and he has so many amazing interests.
And he's Italian.
Italian, and he and his wife Michelle are so very talented, and they bring that love of experiences, and so too Kristen and I. I mean, we don't have that same talent. I think we have other gifts, but the gift we all share in the gift of hospitality. Yeah. And maybe in some ways it's kind of a pride, but I think really it's just in our hearts. We love sharing unique experiences with people. And the greatest part of experiences, when you really boil it all down, are people,
right? And
connecting people. Yeah. And Teresa, just having you and Deacon Dom here and at so many of our events, you're so much a part of a lot of our lives. Mm-hmm. We listen to you. You bring us not just news, but information and so many aspects of how to live a Christian Catholic life. So to be here with you, for many of us, is such a special privilege in itself. It is an experience to be observers to your show and how that's done and produced every day and what goes into it. We take it for granted. We just turn on the radio, EWTN, and we hear Teresa. But I know you well enough to know how much goes into that and how much of your heart and your soul you put into that. And so too do we, put into what types of experiences.
You wear your heart on your sleeve just like I do. But all your staff does, because it means so much to you personally. Because it's an extension of you, that hospitality and that love of the Lord that you want to share. And you want to make sure everybody is getting the most out of the experience.
Well, even this Grand Getaway, this started out as a family vacation. Right. We would rent the hotel out 20 some years ago for a big student event, an educational event. We would bring Supreme Court justices from the Michigan Supreme Court up here and give students an inside look at Michigan government and federal government, and it was fascinating. And we still do that program. But the owner of the hotel here, which is a very unique setting, we're here on Mackinac Island, no cars, and this spectacular setting of the views. This hotel built in 1887, and the owner of the hotel would say, "Oh, you should come back up when it's nice and warm in the middle of summer and bring your family." And of course, at the time we had maybe 2 kids and 1 kid, 2 kids. So we started coming, and we would come, and then, one of our parents would want to come, or a sibling would come.
And then we started right before officially the Grand Getaway got started, because I remember going to the hotel and sitting around the bonfire with the coffees. Remember that? That was part of it too, before you came up here.
About 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden we had a couple of years, like 100 people, and it was just, wow, everybody really sees the value of the experience.
Right.
And one of the years we decided, well, let's bring a priest up for our families. By then we had maybe 6, 7, 8 families, and we'd be playing in the pool and racing bikes around the island, and then we'd come back up here and we'd have a family rosary, and we'd be dressed for dinner, which was a good experience for kids, and then we'd be celebrate the Mass, the Eucharist, and that's the source and summit of our faith.
Yeah.
And to really bring that focus of the greater context of all the beauty that we're experiencing in community and friendship and in the beauty of this place, but to bring it to focus on Christ was always important. So anyway, from that, it just became, well, I think there are more people who'd like this experience, and we just sort of adapted it and partnered with you and EWTN, and gosh, we've just had this amazing experience.
And it sells out every year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does.
You opened up more rooms, because I had a woman email me right before this started, and she says, I really wanted to go. She says, is there any chance? I said, well, I thought they were trying to get some more rooms. And she came up to me last night and said she just got in, and she was so excited.
Praise God.
Yeah.
So anyway, to answer your question, it's a gift when God kind of gives you a gift that you can then present and perpetuate in the spirit of my father-in-law, and that's what our families do, and it's certainly what our team, we have the most amazing team in the world, and thank you for your kind words about them, but it really is, we have fun together. We love our team.
Right, you can see that when they're working together.
We have fun together, we have our stresses, and things go wrong, foibles and follies. There's so many variables we're dealing with, our own humanity, the humanity of all of our partners around the world, and that can become a cross and a challenge, but we learned up here from Father Mike in his incredible talk and homily that our trials and crosses produce endurance, and endurance produces character, and through becoming people of character, we have hope. And that's been our message up here today. And then we heard Steve Ray incorporate hope through the Jubilee. What is a Jubilee, and why is it a source of hope going back to the Old Testament? And he gave a rousing talk up here, and gosh, I think people are going to leave here, and they already
are. We're just in the first part of the day, our first full day, and they're saying this is amazing.
It's like we have a shot of vitamin B12, spiritual energy, and a sense of hope, and then to go back and send forth and to be that source of hope among our family, be agents of reconciliation, agents of love, agents of Christ's love in our workplaces, and to invite others. You spread the love. You bring the next person. That's how it builds. Absolutely, right? and we're learning practical ways to do that. Right. It's not always to beat someone over the head. It's just to be Christ. Like you read the scripture with how did Christ interact with people, and it was always with the spirit of love, truth. But he really, as our model is always Christ. We can configure ourselves to him through this work. That's what I feel like we're taking away here. This particular time is how to have our own hope, and in whom does it rest? Right. And then how do we bring that hope again back to our families, back to all those moments when we feel estranged or feel away, and all of the people who might be struggling in any particular way. We're talking with John Hale, President of Corporate Travel, has been a partner with me, and of course EWTN and many other entities out there, Ave Maria Radio and others, and different trips and different projects. And we are at the Grand Hotel, and we are at the Grand Getaway, which is an annual event now, and you can check it all out at ctscentral.net. One of the points I think that's important is that as we choose to travel, we may see a tour, but there's a tour
and there's a pilgrimage, but then even a tour even if you're doing a secular tour, which you do a lot of secular work, it's just different. It's not just let's go ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom from place to place. That's not an experience. That's just checking something off the bucket list, right?
Absolutely. Well, one of the dynamics at play with a spiritual journey, a pilgrimage, is the community. And we believe that the Holy Spirit calls people on a pilgrimage. And Teresa, you've seen this over and over again, how many friendships have been forged. And we often say that, when we start off in a place where we're open to God, that we have a different ability to form friendships because it's a deeper level. And often people say, wow, I feel like I've known you my whole life.
Right.
And I have those feelings like I feel connected to this person
you are.
in a way that's not just surface. And as you said, we are, because it's a spiritual connection. We're connected in Christ. We're a community. And so that is, I think, a really key differentiator of pilgrimage. I mean, you're obviously going to holy sites, you're having the sacraments, we're having fun, but at the essence is this ability to connect with the people associated with the pilgrimage and who are on the pilgrimage quickly, and to forge that together. And gosh, at the end, I mean, it's all what God does, but clearly you look back and you think how every person, no matter where we are at that moment in our spiritual journey, far, close, going away, going toward, we're all at different moments, but it definitely, there's a force and a movement back to Him through that community, through the people who are on the trip. And it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to be a part of, and a humble part of it.
I love it. One of my favorite parts of being a pilgrimage leader is to sit in the front of the bus, which is where we have to sit because we're by the microphone. We have to be near our escort. And Dominic and I just listen to the talk behind us. And people, even the first day when they get on right from Fiumicino, and they're exhausted, they've flown 8, 10, 12 miles, but they get on the bus and there's this like-mindedness because they're all there for the same reason. And they just chatter and they laugh, and it hasn't even started yet,
right. And what you realize too, and because I think there's more authenticity to people, and so they're a little bit more willing to be open and say, these things are great in my life and these things are a struggle. And sometimes those things just come up organically, but I think it's so heartening to people to hear and realize that these events and on the pilgrimage, where people can be a little more authentic, a little more real, and say, wow, I'm not alone.
Right.
I'm not the only person who struggles with this or with that, or a family member, or whatever it is you're going through. There really is, again, when you bring people together, Christ is present, first of all, foremost, but you have this feeling like, wow, I am supported in a particular way in whatever trial, whatever thing I have going on in my life. I'm not the only one. And there's such a freedom, really, that comes from that, to say, okay, I can get through this. How did this person get through it, practically speaking? How is this person going through it? How can I be Christ to them, and how are they Christ to me? And again, we just continue that forging of our hearts and our minds in Christ.
And that's the joy, too, of going through something. When you go on this experience like that, whatever you're going through, like Father Mike said at Mass in his homily, whatever heartbreak or ever pain you brought to the Grand Hotel, you are not alone. You're with people. So thank you so much for having me again.
Oh, Teresa, are you kidding? You are the Grand Getaway.
I'm the Grand Getaway. On
the Grand Dame of the Grand Getaway.
No, the Grand Dame is carrying my bag around. That's the Deacon Dame. Well, it's great to see you, honey, and we will, of course, continue our conversation. And don't forget, we have a lot of pilgrimages coming up. Go to ctscentral.net. We have the Dr. Matthew Bunson in the Footprints of the Pope pilgrimage that we're doing, and that's already filling up. We have people signing up already. We have the wine trip. Out of the gate, they're going. They're signing up the wine trip next year to the Amalfi Coast, so check it all out. We'll be right back on EWTN, and we're wrapping up with our Grand Hotel Getaway on Mackinac Island. Our next guest, Father Leo Patalinghug, really doesn't need an introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. Of course, you know him from his great work at EWTN, his wonderful program on Sunday afternoon, all about his gifts as a chef and as a priest who helps us understand more deeply the beauty of our faith, especially from the perspective of the Eucharist and how we need to feed our bodies and feed our souls. And he is someone who has cookbooks, and he has his own restaurant and a food truck, and it's all about witnessing. Father Leo was with us also at the Grand Hotel Getaway, and we sat down to chat about his ministry. Well, we're continuing our discussion here at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island with all of our amazing speakers, many of whom are associated with EWTN, including Father Leo Patalinghug. Great to see you again, Father.
It is a pleasure to be here. It's been a while since we've actually worked together, but you're always popping up on my feeds and seeing all these great things you're doing. Your new book, I perused through it.
You like it?
I flippin' love it.
Really?
I just love it. I mean, what a resource for people.
Thank you. Well, that says a lot because you have spent a great deal of time in Italy. So the book is Italy, Shrines and Wonders, and you can get it through EWTN Publishing. But I'm so glad to hear that because I really value your opinion because you know Italy.
No, I'm very sincere. I don't blow smoke up people's Catholics. My mom's always told me you're too honest for good friends. but I just have to say, first of all, you're a great writer. But as I was looking through it, I'm thinking, I need to go back to this place and see it again. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things about pilgrimages. This whole thing is sponsored by corporate travel.
Right.
And their whole objective, just like some of I can say that there aren't many good Catholic company.
Right.
They're a small few. And corporate travel is certainly a part of that really qualitative touring pilgrimage experience. That's the point. We're not supposed to be parishioners. We're supposed to be pilgrims.
Right.
People on a search.
We did a pilgrimage for couples, remember, to the Amalfi Coast many years ago, which was a blast.
You dragged me.
Oh, I had to drag you to the Amalfi Coast. Yeah, offer it up.
Well, in a way, because, it's hard for us to just pull ourselves out of situations. But when you say you got to come to the Amalfi Coast, I'm like, man, you got to twist my arm for that.
Yeah, that was
and then
incredible.
It was a lot of fun. You see the beauty, what I would call the touristic beauty, but as Catholics, you see the spiritual beauty.
Yeah, St. Andrews and just
amazing.
Yeah. So, this is probably a very silly question, but I learned in J school years ago, the only silly questions are the ones you don't ask. You're up to a lot. What are you up to right now in your ministry?
Too much, to be honest with you. It's called I Need to Discern What Matters. So writing a new book on college, and it's called College Students Faithful and Fed. Too many people ask me, how do I keep my college kids Catholic? And then, of course, they're eating crappy food physically and spiritually.
Right.
So that's happening. But then also the restaurant and the food truck, I am in a desperate place to find someone who can be a partner as well as a manager for the food operations, because I don't know if anyone knows, but I'm a priest. Yeah. I don't have time.
You kind of need to be there for the parishioners and
everything else that's going on, plus extensive travels, and thankfully, I don't know, I think we're in season 13 or 14 of the Savoring Our Faith episodes.
Which I love.
They are fun, and I think people are seeing how the church makes the world beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, we were talking about this at dinner last night with Steve, and friends of ours from Michigan are here, and she said she had a question from someone who is a fallen away Catholic, and he went to Italy and he walks into St. Peter's and he says, oh, look at this, this could be sold to feed the poor. And she said, how do I respond to that? And I said, well, why don't you ask him if beauty has ever moved him? I started with that. And then I also talked about the Old Testament, where we built the temple, right, to honor God. They built the temple to honor God. And I talked about the catechesis that goes with that's how they taught the faith for many centuries, because they didn't have the Bibles. People need to see that beauty, and you can see it everywhere.
And by the way, those beautiful cathedrals, you can be rich, you can be poor.
Right, anybody can go.
You can be even non-Catholic.
Right.
And we're going to have no restrictions on you. And what's really fascinating and maybe even frustrating for me with that question, why can't we just sell all this and give it to the poor? Well, the last time I checked, rich people go to the churches, poor people go to the churches. You don't even have to be Catholic to go to the churches. Our only requirement is that you don't do stupid things in it and that you dress modestly.
Right.
And then if you want to learn about the faith, guess what? You don't even need a guide. You just need a heart open to the beauty, and our art will teach you about the faith. And of course, we do have guides as well. Some of the leading experts in art and history and theology and science, guess what? They're part of the church's building.
Exactly. And they talk about, well, they could use this to feed the poor. Well, that is feeding the poor in many ways. It's not just a physical need that we have. People who are poor, all of us, whether we're poor, rich, middle class, doesn't matter. We need to be fed differently.
And every church that I know has programs that can feed the poor. But guess what? We're not a social services. We don't exist to help pay rent, but we do that anyway. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there were organizations that actually did that? we do have them. It's called the government, but they're not taking care of that. And
Right.
so the church has to also now do government work, like feeding the poor, helping the homeless, dealing with people with mental illness and drug addictions. The church is the answer to all of the world's problems.
The church is on the ground. I saw this a while ago, an article about everything the church does. And when there's a disaster anywhere in the world, the church is usually the first, next to the EMS and the response teams.
And particularly the Catholic Church.
Right.
We're the largest, the most mobilized, and the most compassionate. I don't want to make any cast aspersions on anyone, but just the idea of other religions, they're like warring with each other. And the Catholic Church is the one who's trying to maintain peace amongst all the religions.
Right.
I get frustrated when people don't recognize the power and the beauty of the Catholic Church,
Amen.
which is why we got to get out there and see what the Catholic Church does in the world.
Right, and you're doing that. So you have the same name as our new Pope.
Yeah,
So
I'm proud of him.
it wasn't it amazing though we have an American Pope? What was your reaction when you heard Hubemus Papam and saw him walk out?
I got a text from my operations manager when I was in my kitchen of the restaurant cooking for a big fundraising dinner for some nuns, some religious sisters. He said, "White smoke." I pull on my phone and I'm watching on it, and then as soon as I heard the name, Roberto French, I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's Prevost. That's the American.
Wow.
And then they say, in nomine posuit Leone XIV. I flipped out because I realized he picked that name very strategically because of who Leo XIII was. And he was a revolution pope in the best way possible. So my heart is filling up. I'm crying. And one of my employees he comes from a disadvantaged community, he walks out and he says, "Hey, I was ordained a high priest of my church too." And I said, "This is a little different, my brother. Let me have this moment."
It was really powerful. We were there. We were right there we were along the Conciliazione because we couldn't quite get into St. Peter's Square. But just to be there, and what was so cool, Father, was there were so many people that we were running. We were staying in an apartment in Trastevere, and we were monitoring live.
Hold on a second. We were staying in an apartment in Trastevere.
Well, because we couldn't find a hotel room near the Vatican.
How privileged are we?
I know,
and you know
crazy.
what? It's not for us. It's for everyone.
Everybody. Yes, anybody can go. But Trastevere is, and it's a great neighborhood, iconic neighborhood in Rome. But we couldn't find any hotels near the Vatican. It was all sold out. That's why we were in Trastevere. But anyway, we took a cab halfway there, and we got close to the bridge by Castel Angelo, right? And so we told the cab driver to stop, and everybody was running toward. But half of them weren't even Catholic. They just wanted to be there, which to me, that says something, Father.
The papacy is not for Catholics. It's for Christ's church, which is universal.
Universal church.
It's the world. And so when I see non-Catholics get excited about the Pope, it just helps to affirm that our faith is the true faith of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
I was a mess. I had to pull myself away. I was going to cry in my food.
Yeah, that was one of those things. And because all the experts that I was interviewing were saying, we're never going to have an American Pope. It's not going to be an American Pope. And then I think God always has the last laugh.
I didn't even know he was American until
I didn't recognize him. When Dominic and I were there, they had the jumbo screens. Of course, we couldn't barely see St. Peter's. There were so many people. But then Dom was down on the ground, and I was standing up on one of the posts along the avenue. Yeah. I was actually on the phone doing a live report with a secular network, and he comes out, and I was like, who is he? I don't recognize, because he spent so much time in Peru.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in the Vatican.
Right.
And so when they said we have 9 cardinals from America, I'm thinking, really? Do we? I was trying to go through the list. Yeah. And then it was an American reporter who said, and these are the 9, and the numbers, and they mentioned Prevost, and I'm thinking, I don't even know who he is.
Yeah.
But what a gift to know that American church, which was a missioned church, people sent priests to us to be missionaries.
Now we have the Pope.
And now we have sent people to different parts of the country and the world to be missionaries, and for him to not only represent the Americas including South America,
Right.
including Peru, but also to represent the Vatican because he was responsible for the bishop's congregation. So he was a perfect person, but none of us knew it. But God does.
Yeah.
And it makes me grateful for the cardinals who are praying.
And I think it shows the beauty of the church handed down over the generations in the apostolic succession. And I think this is a gift to us as Americans in the Catholic Church. And you are out there all the time speaking and doing all kinds of wonderful things and using your gifts as a chef and as a priest. How can we take, by the way, if you're just tuning in, we're at the Grand Hotel and I'm speaking with one of the speakers, my friend Father Leo from EWTN, Father Leo Patalinghug, who has the same name as the Pope, although you had it first before he did.
I did.
So how can we use this as a moment from an American perspective to evangelize now that we have an American Pope, do you think?
Well, what's interesting is that Pope Leo's mission, especially with his Augustinian formation, is to encourage peace and brotherhood, a true fraternity, a true commonality. And what we're finding is that in America, Catholics can be very divided against each other.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we need to get over ourselves.
Right.
And, when people says you're not a good Catholic because you do this, or you're a bad Catholic because you don't do that, all of that stuff we need to put kind of aside and put Christ first. And then I think what this particular Holy Father is going to do is kind of slap the wrists and slap the hands of those who are trying to impose Catholicism rather than inviting people to a Catholicism. What catches flies more? Is it vinegar or is it honey? And so I think there's a sweetness. The other thing that I see is that, please don't get me wrong, folks, do not accuse me. I'm just referring to an article that I read. They were grateful that he's a boring pope. And what do we mean by that? It doesn't mean that he's like not inspiring, because he's incredibly inspiring a million people.
He just takes his time.
He is truly not trying to make headlines.
Right.
He's trying to get to hearts.
Right.
And we just know that Pope Francis, may he rest in peace, he made a lot of headlines because of how he spoke. This one is very calculated. His first words were written down. He
And the first
read
words he
them,
said, "Peace be with you."
and they were written down, and he doesn't speak off the cuff. So I think he's being a good example for us not to be so off the cuff.
Especially in an age when we just go at it on the internet. And he just gave a whole talk to the Jubilee of Youth
What do you
about
mean?
that.
Do you think people throw hate and shade on the internet?
I mean, and he was talking about that with social media, how to be a real communicator and what that means, and it's a real lesson. His peace and his demeanor, the way he goes about things, and his background, I think, it's so funny because he has such a diverse heritage. He has some Italian, he has some Cajun, he has African American, he has Sicilian,
European.
He has European, and he represents the Universal Church.
And he's not that tall.
No.
So he must be a little Filipino as well. But you're absolutely right. When he came out, he just looked pontifical.
Yeah, he did.
And when he went to pray at the tomb of Pope Francis, his just demeanor, and I was looking at his two brothers following in tow, and it's just shocking to me that this man, who is the Pope, has eaten hot dogs from a stadium.
But this is how God works, though, isn't it? He shows us that anything is possible.
A hot dog,
A hot dog.
Teresa.
I know, and he's a White Sox fan.
I mean, as an O's fan, I can be patient, but he ate a hot dog, Teresa. He knows what it means to be an American.
Right. Yeah, it's a great time. Okay, so we're going to let you go. I know you're busy. You've got to talk tonight. Where are you going next after the Grand Hotel Getaway?
Let's see here. I'm going to be going to visit my institute. We have our annual gathering, which is why I can't stay much longer. I would love to. And then after that, I have 2 days with 2 events at the Gastro Social, my restaurant. And by the way, the Gastro Social is gastronomy, the study of food, social. Let's just have food bring us together. Then I head out for a pilgrimage on the Douro River in Spain and Portugal.
Beautiful.
Very, very peaceful.
Yeah.
We're going to touch on Fatima, the Eucharistic miracles of Santarém, and then we're also just going to understand what it means to be on the Love Boat.
Good for you. Good for you. Safe travels, and look forward to seeing you again. And
you're the best, Teresa.
Let's do a pilgrimage together. It's great to work with you. We haven't seen each other in a while, but love you, and you're great. Give us your website, too, for more information.
Oh, please, just visit me at platinggrace.com, or if you just Google Father Leo. And if ever in Baltimore, please come and eat with us. You will be fed body, mind, and soul.
And of course, your show on EWTN. Where do we find it?
Every Sunday at 4:30 Eastern. Check your local listing.
All right. On EWTN.com. We're going to take a break and be right back. It's been Father Leo Patalinghug, same name as the Pope, and we are at the Grand Hotel in Mackinac Island. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to Catholic Connection on this special edition of a Labor Day program for you on a Monday, a very special Monday, as we're unofficially closing out summer. Most of us think of the Labor Day weekend as the end of summer. And Father Leo is always great to chat with, and we appreciate him spending time with us at the Grand Hotel. Coming up next, I think you're going to love what you're going to hear about how the Rome Boys are doing, how their podcast has grown, and why Chris Martin, the brains, they say, behind the organization, decided to come to the Grand Hotel Getaway and learn more about what we do so they can do some similar things. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Catholic Connection here on EWTN. One of the things I love about doing these different gatherings around the country is that always so many great people attend, including someone with whom our audience is very familiar because their podcast is on our podcast collection. And it's Chris Martin, who's known as the brains behind the Rome Boys. That's what it says on your bio. I just took it from the website. Well, it's great to see you again in person.
Thank you, Teresa. It's great to be here with you. And what a beautiful place.
You've never been, have you?
First time. And we got to bring the family.
Yeah, and all your 6 daughters, they're beautiful. Just as, just a gorgeous family, and your wife, of course. So first time at the Grand Hotel, first time, but you've been to Michigan before, right?
I've been to Michigan to visit with Corporate Travel and Father John Ricardo and his apostolate.
Okay. So what do you think, though, of northern lower Michigan and the lakes and the island?
I wasn't prepared. Honestly, it's beautiful. I tend to forget how beautiful America is after going to, Rome and all these beautiful foreign places. And we'll be going to Poland next year and Mexico City in a couple of weeks with a group. But I had no idea how beautiful it was. Sincerely, the water's clear. In East Texas, West Texas, we're not used to clear water. It's usually muddy. So people say there's water everywhere. We're thinking mosquitoes, flies, swamps, It's like the ocean.
Yeah.
And yes.
That's what people don't realize. And Father Leo Patalinghug, we were coming over on the ferry with him the other day, and he has been to Michigan before, but never this far north. And he said, now I know why they call them Great Lakes, because they're little oceans, because you cannot see the other side of the land. Yeah. So this place is really cool because you get both the scenery of the Lake Huron on the east and then Lake Michigan on the west, because we're in the Straits of Mackinac. Anyway, there's your geography lesson for Michigan. So what's up with the Rome Boys?
We just had our 5-year celebration.
Wow.
And we said we were just let's just get the families together, maybe just invite our immediate family. We'll use the family center at church there in West Texas, where we're located. And then somebody said, well, hey, it'd be fun if we could join you. We'd love to celebrate. Well, that turned into over 350 people. And so we had it catered, and we had great people come out. We had from the Beatitudes, we had one of their great, wonderful entertainers. And so we had improv and all sorts of entertainment. Anyways, great food. And so 5 years, we can't believe it. But when COVID hit, that's kind of what said to us, we believe, a calling from God to, hey, record your shows because you're doing RCIA and recording anyways. So that was the beginning. And so evangelization continued. And here we are 5 years later. And I've always been told, and I'm the entrepreneur, if you will, at the Rome Boys, if you can last 2 years, then you'll last forever. It's the first 2 years of endurance. So we're just so wonderful that, so excited that people have continued to support us. And so now we realize, hey, we might not be going anywhere for a while, God willing. So we are going to hopefully next year break ground on our new headquarters for our studio. And in our small community, it'll be actually another geography lesson. Our town is the home of Bonnie and Clyde,
Okay.
unfortunately. And so the building next door to us is the first bank that she ever knocked off. So we're kind of trying to change the image. And
Well, there you go. Okay. That's
So-
actually pretty cool.
yes, it is. Yeah. So
in terms of what the opposite and how you can explain that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So, but our community is very Catholic, and I don't mean this in any negative way. As a convert, I just thought everybody should know Scott Hahn and Teresa Tomeo and Steve Ray and all these wonderful people sincerely, because I listened to you guys coming into the church. And after Mass, I'd talk with people, and they had no clue who they were, and no fault of their own, I suppose. But so we just wanted to introduce them to other great Catholics. And you guys are I say you guys because I just wanted to share the gospel in a way that was genuine. And so it's been great to be around you all and to be a part of The Voice. One of the things that we said on the show with you, live on the radio, was, and we heard this from someone else, so I'm stealing it, there's no competition for the gospel.
Right, exactly.
And so it's been great to just realize that in this world, it's not, and cutthroat business media and all this of your past, right? That we just all, hey, here we are in Mackinac Island, all boats rise on the same tide. And so we've been able to just enjoy great company and share the gospel. So 5 years now.
Wow. Talking with Chris Martin from the Rome Boys. How often do you do the podcast? How many episodes? Bring our listeners up to.
Well, it used to be at least one a week. And so we would record several shows. And then life happened and some, families went different places as far as vacations, maybe work. Joe's a farmer, and so there's a season of life where he's just out of pocket, and we all understand. Tony is actually getting he's becoming a Catholic licensed professional counselor.
Wow.
Yes. So he's already got a bachelor's in theology, a master's in theology. He was in seminary for 3 years, and here he continues.
Great background. Yeah.
Yes. He continues to improve his education, his understanding of people so that he can help them. So about one a week. But I give a little disclaimer because we haven't produced as many lately.
Yeah.
So, but we're gearing up for the new studio, and we've been so graciously supported where a lot of local people are helping us by donating materials, literally steel and all of these things to build it. And we hope that it's a billboard in itself, that our community is an anchor of Catholicism for all those around us. And I just want to kind of say this to all the people who live in small communities in rural America, which is most of America, that we had a desire for the young people to have something they can call their own. And so in this studio, we hope that they can come in and record their own podcast. We want to have a big area for Bible studies, for the youth to have a coffee bistro, and maybe...
That's what I was going to say. It'd be great if you had the studios combined with areas to socialize. So that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, Mexico City next in a couple of weeks, and to see the Tilma, and then so many things on the agenda. But
it's incredible, isn't it, when you say yes to God, and when God puts something on your heart, and you're just doing this, you just want to be there for people, and then you look 5 years down the road and look where the Rome Boys is taking
100%. I want to say this briefly, if I may. Well, I always say briefly, and my wife is like, this is the message that I carry. What you just said. How did the gospel ever get shared? But through stories. That's what Jesus did. And when I tell my story, which, maybe I'm biased. I don't know. That would sound selfish or pompous, but I believe God has given me an incredible story to share.
Oh, yeah.
And I just hope that other people will share their story. Like Father Mike said yesterday in his talk, it took 24 years for someone to stop and tell James Taylor, hey, I heard you were open to being, having a conversation about Christianity. It's amazing how let me correct my speech here. The longer you wait to say yes, the less likely you are to do it.
That's a great point.
You just got so. I always say to the heights.
Right. Who says that?
Yes.
Saint Frazzati.
Yes.
Soon to be Saint Frazzati, September 7th. Yeah, it's
Pierre
amazing.
Giorgio.
Yes. And to me, it's just so cool because what I love about many things about my network, EWTN, is the fact that they are highlighting people like you. And so they recognize, and of course, EWTN has its own area in podcasting, but they recognize podcasts that are good, and they want to share that with people. So they want to highlight people like you. And that's got to be a huge plus for you to have that backing from
it's
EWTN.
an honor. Oh, my goodness. It's such an honor. And, for Father Mitch to become a close personal friend. You know, we get to take him hunting and enjoy.
I know he's told me all about it. He showed me the pictures. Yeah.
I got to tell a quick story. The
Sure.
first time he was ever in our little neck of the woods, he's standing in his collar. It's about 11 p.m. at night. It's dark outside, and he's in our own little grocery store parking lot. We finally meet up with him. Father, what are you doing? We told you where the address was. He said, I had to stop. There's a taxidermist here. I just strangled a bobcat.
Oh my gosh.
And we're thinking he's joking because he's a jokester.
Right.
And he said, no, look, he opens the cooler in the back of his truck, and sure enough, there's a bobcat.
Wow.
And he said, and I got a couple other things I need to get taxidermied. Maybe you guys can mail it to me back in Alabama. And yes, it's...
But he's so real, though. That's
he's
a
100% real.
Yeah.
He said, I had to leave Chicago, and for safety, I moved to Detroit. So, anyways.
Detroit is not as bad as people say.
No,
The
it's
media,
not.
this is the news media. But let's talk a little bit about it's hard to say where you go from here. It's all in God's plan. But what do you think, in addition, you've got the studio, maybe the Bible study. Can you see yourselves maybe doing some retreats in the new location too?
We have. One of the great things that we've been honored to do is in our local diocese. We have the second largest diocese in the country geographically, 39,000 square miles. And so we do get out and do small retreats there. And we've been talking about doing something a little bit bigger, on a little bit bigger scale. So those are in the works. But so Advent missions, Lenten missions, we do a lot of that locally now. Pilgrimages, obviously, ongoing. But I think that as we get back into the school year, if you will, there's going to be a lot more podcasting coming out. And we're trying to develop, and we've been working with an Emmy-nominated, actually, it's our video, and I'm not bragging here, but our video that is going to be the one that a local newscaster who's Catholic is taking all the way to the national Emmys.
Oh,
and
great.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hopefully, let us know. We'd love to feature that if you
Yeah,
will.
it'd be...
And by the way, the video you did on my book when you interviewed me earlier this year in the Good News Cruise, it was phenomenal.
Oh,
it looked really,
thanks.
really good. It looked like a professionally done video.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's Manny Diaz who helps us with some of our editing. Now, I got to give all credit to Joe. He spends the hours doing that. But Manny, who is really, truly the Emmy nominated, I don't even know his professional term. Producer, yes. Mm-hmm. You would know, Teresa. I forget. Sorry.
It's okay.
So, but hopefully he can help us develop some programming. Not so, as you asked about retreats, some more polished, specific types of programs that we produce. And we're trying to gear it towards young people, although we're not so young anymore. We think we are, but so there's a lot of irons in the fire.
There's so much that you guys could do, but I really think that you are. It says in the Old Testament book of Esther, for such a time as this, and I just think it's so cool the way you came together. Very different, but with all the same idea in mind. But it's all about evangelization.
Yes.
At the end of the day, right?
Our oldest daughter is Joan, of course. Father John Ricardo. For such a time as this.
Yeah.
What we really wanted to do is just say, I was on a stage in front of quite a few people and said, if we can do it, anyone can.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's more difficult to replicate perfection, right? I mean, we all strive to be like Jesus, who's perfect, but it's very difficult to replicate. So our hope is that people say, well, if those knuckleheads can do it, and they've been traveling the world and got to see the bones of Peter, the first YouTube channel or video ever produced by the Vatican, the Rome Boys.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So like you said, Teresa, if you just say yes, like Mary did, get ready. It's a wild ride.
It is. I always say it's like a roller coaster ride. Look, Ma, no hands, and you're going, woo! but it's the best. And but it really starts with that God just wants an open heart. And then just let him go. Just let him go to it. Well, great to see you. Enjoy the rest of your time at Mackinac, and we will be in touch, and hopefully we'll reconnect in Italy at some point. And then please keep us posted as to when the new shows are coming up to remind our listeners.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell us where, in addition to EWTN, where we can find Chris Martin and the Rome Boys online.
We try to make it simple, romeboys.org.
There you go.
And if you Google Rome Boys, I think you're not going to find a bunch of crazy stuff. I think you'll find us. So maybe you will find crazy.
But good crazy.
Yes, good crazy.
In a crazy faith way. Thank you, my dear. Good to see you again. God bless you. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for tuning in to a special edition of Catholic Connection here on EWTN Global Catholic Radio on a special program, Labor Day 2025. Can you believe it? Unofficial end of summer. Of course, summer will end in a little bit. It's on the calendar officially, but we're just kind of wrapping things up for you and revisiting some of the time we spent with wonderful people at the Grand Hotel Getaway in early August. This happens every year, and you should check it out. You can contact Corporate Travel. Their website is ctscentral.net. Wonderful event. People have such a great time and just rave about it. It's only 2 days, but it's jam-packed. And you also, in addition to having great talks from people like the ones we featured in the last hour, you also have plenty of time on your own to enjoy what we call the island, as in Mackinac Island. Coming up next in the second hour of Catholic Connection, you don't want to miss the interview that we did with two others that spoke at the conference, including our good friend, Father Michael Schmitz. He joins us. We sat down with him, and someone else you know well from EWTN, our very own Dr. Edward Sri, who was there with his wife, Beth. And Ted is half Italian, and whenever we meet, we always talk about Italy, and so he too is going to talk about the importance of pilgrimage. Something else very special is happening. I don't know if you're familiar with this new film that is coming out called Triumph of the Heart about Maximilian Kolbe. Marcellino D'Ambrosio's son is the one who actually put this beautiful film together, and you'll have an opportunity to hear from both of them in the second hour of the program. You don't want to miss it. We're going to play a trailer, and then I'm going to share some thoughts on the importance of this film and others from that time and place, Auschwitz, especially having to do, for example, with St. Teresa Benedicta and what we can learn from them. More Catholic Connection coming your way on this Labor Day 2025.
Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tomeo.
And another priest that really doesn't need an introduction. Thanks for tuning in to the second hour of Catholic Connection here on EWTN Radio Extra. The one, the only, Father Mike Schmitz. His website is Bulldog Catholic. Of course, he's a youth priest and leads youth ministry at Duluth and the University of Minnesota at Duluth. He's just amazing. Of course, Bible in the Year, Catechism in the Year. He's all over Facebook and social media. And he, too, was up at the Grand Hotel this year, and we sat down to chat. So here is the interview with Father Michael Schmitz. I think you're going to find it very encouraging and very enlightening as he, too, talks about the importance of breaking out of our comfort zone and growing in our faith. Well, here we are again. Father Michael Schmitz, of course, needs no introduction. And we are at the Grand Hotel Getaway, just pulling him aside for yet another interview. And he's very gracious. He's so busy. So far, I mean, this is just another great corporate travel event, Father.
Yeah, no, it's been incredible. I know they can't control the weather, but It's been beautiful. We have the fires from Canada, which have tried to put a haze over the situation, but it's still, the sun keeps breaking through, and it's really gorgeous.
This is an event that keeps growing. I mean, I think we're up to close to 400 this year.
Yeah,
what would you say
amazing.
to folks listening about maybe coming next year for 2026?
Yeah, well, I when people ask me what it is, I hope this is accurate. I say it's like a family vacation, or a couple's vacation, whatever, just a vacation where you also have some spiritual opportunities. So confession and mass and talks and opportunity to be with people who are like-minded, but it's also vacation. So people are out right now riding bikes and walking around the island and doing all the things you normally would do, eating fudge. Yep. But also there's a talk in the next room by, I think, Steve Ray.
Yeah,
right?
Steve Ray speaking right now.
And it's like, this is, what a cool combination of family vacation or vacation in a really neat setting in northern Michigan and a retreat. That's kind of what it is.
And next up, I know you are all over the place, but we have next big event is the Good News Cruise in 2026, and that is packed, that's sold out, and we have 800 on a waiting list.
Yeah, which is remarkable. And that's also, that would be more, as the couples is the main thrust. Is it still couples?
We do have a singles track, but
Okay,
it's a smaller
that's great.
track, and unfortunately we didn't get the response we wanted from the singles, so we're still working on that. But anyone really, I think, would come on that and have a great time.
Yeah, which I've seen people do, and that's kind of similar. It's you go on a cruise vacation, but also have sanctified in so many ways, right?
And we're the whole ship, so it's a whole Catholic,
which is a whole new
chartered ship.
That's going to be a new dynamic,
Yeah.
because in the last couple of years, it's been maybe 500 of us or 800 of us.
Right.
Now I'm like, okay, everyone, which is, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So let's talk about what you're involved in. You've got so many projects going on, so many wonderful things, Ascension Press, Catechism in the Year. How's that going? And of course, Bible in the Year is still so popular.
Yeah, no, it's been going really well. The Bible, I think, recently surpassed 1 billion downloads.
What? 1 billion?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I think I'm accurate on that one. I don't think I'm misquoting anything, but that is just remarkable. I mean, just amazing to realize that many people have listened to the Bible, have gone through the Word of God, and that's just it's such an honor to be able to be part of it. And that right now I would say it like this: I feel like I have such a non-graspy connection to it that I get to even just kind of marvel at what God is doing without pointing it back to myself. I think in some ways, where it's just it's just God's word got read by some guy and then commented on, and now it exists, and people are still coming to know Him, and he's doing miracles. It's amazing.
There's a combination there, though. And you were talking about this in your homily here at the Grand Hotel. You die to self. We talked about, of course, the readings and talking about that everything can go away in a minute, but that's why you have to surrender yourself and understand that you're supposed to be a vessel. It's not about how much you can accumulate. But there is a combination between people who have certain gifts, and you have a gift, and people are attracted to your voice and your spirituality. But it is kind of amazing, though, when you sit back and you look and they're like 1 billion people now have downloaded this. This is why people, the whole idea of surrender is when you're giving it over to God, you have to remember and wrap your head around the fact that you're giving your life over to the Creator of the universe who can do anything.
Right.
And that's what's happening. He's using your gifts because you said yes way back when you were, and I never heard that story about you as a teenager and going to adoration and seeing the picture of St. Francis. And then did you ever think when you entered the seminary that you would be doing everything you're doing now?
Well, great question. A clarification is billion downloads.
Downloads.
I wish it was 1 billion people, maybe someday.
Okay.
I just, when I was in seminary, one of the things I just wanted to do is actually in high school, my confirmation saint is St. Francis Xavier, patron saint of missionaries, because I just want to be a missionary. I remember talking to teachers at my public high school saying, like, my Spanish teacher, like, is there anywhere I can go to bring the gospel? And she well, here's some handouts. She might have had some things. I didn't know. I didn't even know if she was Christian or not, but she had some Christian handouts of missionaries. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. Even when I got to the college I went to, the first day I got on campus, I went into the chapel and saw their campus ministry on campus. The back of it said, we send 2 graduates of this school every year to be missionaries in Central America. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. And so 4 years later, it was I was with 20 or so missionaries from my school to bring. We taught at a Catholic high school in Central America, and because that was just always what I wanted to do. So even in seminary, it was just how do we bring the gospel to people who need to know Jesus? And I didn't know how it would be. I would say this. I would say that have you ever seen the movie God's Not Dead?
Yes.
So there's a scene in the first one or second one of the two, where there is a young Muslim woman living in the United States, and she's listening to her iPod, and there's a man on there reading through the Bible and preaching, and she has a conversion towards Jesus. And I was just like, I remember thinking, man, if I could just do something like that, that would just be amazing, to be able to reach people who would never otherwise darken the door of a church for whatever reason.
Right.
Last week, I got a text message from Alex Jones from Hale. And there's a man in Iran who raised Muslim.
I just got the chills.
Who said,
wow.
I have been listening to the Bible, and I want to be a follower of Jesus. I know that if I do that, my life is forfeit.
Yeah.
But he's the way, the truth, and the life. Wow. And I was just like, oh my gosh, to be part of that So I never anticipated this, obviously, but just some of those prayers and the hopes, I guess.
Well, I think what's on your heart, God answers the desires of your heart as long as they're pure and they're within His will. We're talking with the amazing Father Michael Schmitz, really needs no introduction. And he's with us on the Grand Hotel Getaway. We'll be with us, God willing, on the Good News Cruise in 2026. And you can find out about all the great events he does with corporate travel, including his pilgrimages, ctscentral.net. But I want to get back to this whole idea, because there's been a lot about, and I feel like God's asking me to really talk about this a lot on the show, the whole discernment process,
Yeah.
discerning. And Sister Dee Dee Byrne, I'm sure you know who she is. She's phenomenal. She's the one who gave the talk at the Republican National Convention in 2020.
Oh, I saw her, yeah.
Sister
I saw her
surgeon,
there.
she's an amazing surgeon, and she's a general in the Army,
Yeah.
too. I mean, talk about a dynamic combination.
Incredible.
But she said that she had a desire to do more in the pro-life movement, and she was praying in adoration. And nobody even contacted her at that point. This was just weeks before the Republican National Convention. And she says, Lord, I'm out there on the pro-life circuit, but I want to make sure people understand that life begins at conception. Just help me do that. She got out of the adoration portion of her prayer, and she received a call from the Republican National Convention to do the talk. Sometimes God answers really quickly, but my point of that is she was talking about discernment and how you're always... The discernment process doesn't end, even for you as a priest,
Yeah,
even for Dom as a deacon. You discern every day to make sure you're in the will of God, right?
Yeah. Well, I always say that when it comes to vocation call, that there's 3 senses of call in that we understand as Christians, Catholics. The first sense is what the church has termed the universal call to holiness, which never changes, which means God wants us to be saints. That's our destiny He made us with, not fate, but destiny. Like we have a destination where He wants us to reach, He wants us to be saints. Never changes. That's one call. Second call is the one that we typically think of: marriage and family life, consecrated single life,
right.
Priesthood, or marriage. I said that one? The 4,
Yeah.
big 4. And then the third one is a never-ending, always changing, what is God calling me to do in this moment?
Right, today.
Today.
Right. Yeah.
And while that first one never, ever, ever changes, no matter how far we've run from Him, the second one might change once or twice in a person's life. That third one always changes.
Right.
And so we always have to be listening. God, what is it you actually are wanting of me? Because to be a saint is what? Is to do nothing other than to do what God wants, as He wants, because He wants.
Right.
Not in the big thing, but in the small things.
Right.
And that's why everyone listening to this right now is just, okay, am I doing right now exactly what God wants? Again, not macro.
Right.
I mean, that's there.
Right.
But in this moment, am I in this moment? Mm-hmm. Which is one of the reasons why we have that, the practice of the presence of God, or
right.
that sacrament of the present moment, where it's the only place I can find God is here and now.
Right.
The only place He is, for me at least, is here and now.
Right.
And so that's, like you said, that we always have to be open to His call.
And sometimes as Americans, we're always trying to do.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're running
Next
forward.
thing.
The next thing,
Yeah.
and just to slow down and be still and know He is God. I know you're super busy. I know there's people who want to talk to you here at the retreat. So any final thoughts in terms of what you'd like people to know, in terms of what you're working on or where you're going next?
Well, wow, that's a great. So we talked about this before we even started recording. There's just so much happening, and I'm just grateful for it. We're going on tour. We're continuing those tours. The Parables tour right now, where we have
have been selling out like crazy.
I've just been really blessed, and that's been a really, really powerful thing for me, because there's a couple things that happen. One is people who have been familiar with the Bible or the Catechism or whatever we do online, to be in person and to see people's
Face to
faces.
face.
Yeah, where I get to see people's faces,
Right.
and they say, I know you, but you don't know me. But to get to know people, has been remarkable. Another thing people do is they'll invite their friends who haven't been on that same journey. And they'll say, well, you just want to, would you come with me to this kind of talk or show, whatever, and to hear something about the Lord, something about Christianity, something about Catholicism. Yeah. And so people's hearts are being moved. Actually, the last tour we did, last evening we did, there are a number of people who, they're starting OCIA this upcoming fall.
Yeah.
And it's just wow. And that's not just the talk, obviously, that's the friendship of people who are hey, come with me. And they keep walking with them. But to be,
and I think it's giving them
a
different view of Catholicism.
Yeah.
And you're funny and you're real, and you talk about your family, you talk about things that happened to you, and it's a real thing. It's not like this very disconnected, heavy theology. Well, it is theology, but we're at where people can understand.
Well, that's the thing, is that you think about every person you mentioned, going back. Did you think this would happen? I think of every person I ever listening to, and think, well, they all did that. They've all made those kind of connections where I could listen, anyone could listen, and this is not just abstract. This is maybe high concept when it comes to theology, but also just what do I do with this?
Right.
And thank you for giving me a picture of what I can do with this. It's always helped me, so I just want to help others.
Well, you're a gem. Take care of that arm.
Yeah.
I hope he's had some surgery on his right arm. You're right-handed too, aren't you?
It's been fun.
Wow. Well, offer it up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Great to see you. We've been talking, of course, with the one, the only Father Michael Schmitz here on Catholic Connection. We'll be right back. Always great to sit down and talk with Father Michael Schmitz. He's just an amazing witness and warrior for the faith and does so much with young people. And he really enjoys pilgrimage. It's great to be with very energetic, very funny, very down-to-earth, the one, the only Father Michael Schmitz. Catechism in a year, Bible in a year. Of course, all of his work with the students in Minnesota, Bulldog Catholic, and just a great witness for us. And you can check out his great work, by the way, his videos and other resources at ascensionpress.com, and you also see him here at EWTN. Speaking of EWTN, I'm so excited that I had the opportunity to sit down with someone you know and love well through EWTN, our friend Dr. Edward Shree, who has been so involved with ministry for so many years, the Augustine Institute, Focus, Fellowship of Catholic University Students. He also sat down with me at the Grand Hotel Getaway. Can you believe the lineup? Think about that. You mentioned John Hale, the president of corporate travel, Father Leo Patalinghug, Father Michael Schmitz, Chris Martin from the Rome Boys, and now Dr. Shree. I mean, what more could you ask for in terms of great teaching and great faith and a lot of energy for all things Christ? So it was a great time at the Grand Hotel. But these are the kind of speakers that you get when you go to an event like this. And that's why we're always encouraging you to think about doing something a little bit different in terms of what you are hoping to gain from your faith. I mean, it's great to be involved in your local parish, and we certainly want that, and we encourage that always. But there are also great resources out there. And when you go out and you experience something like the Grand Hotel Getaway or a pilgrimage, even if it's a local pilgrimage in your own diocese, you're going to meet people who are like you, who want to learn about their faith and embrace it more. So something to think about. And Dr. Shree does quite a few pilgrimages, and I think he's got one coming up with corporate travel in the near future. So we sat down with Dr. Shree, also at the Grand Hotel, and just caught up with him to find out what he's been doing with ministry and what he thought of the experience at the Grand Getaway. Here we go. Continuing our discussion here at the Grand Hotel Getaway 2025, and it's great to be with our fellow EWTN colleague, Dr. Edward Shree, who's known so well by our listeners and our viewers. So I know you've been to Mackinac, but this is your first Grand Hotel Getaway, right?
Yeah, this is the first time in the Grand Hotel. So I came here many, many years ago. I got to explore the island, but never got to come to this historic hotel. You know, I was reading up on it. I don't know if you know, like Thomas Edison.
Yes.
He revealed the phonograph here. You know, that was like his big thing. There's been many presidents that have been here. I think it's awesome that we have over 300 on fire Catholics coming together for this getaway, being fed in their faith with the Eucharist and talks, and this is a wonderful event here.
It's really fun, and then your wife Beth is also taking part, which is neat, because when we see you on TV, we see you in various presentations, of course your great work with the Fellowship of Catholic University Students, and I'm just so happy I got to meet your beautiful wife, and she's presenting with you.
Yeah, we're going to be giving a talk on prayer, and she's really amazing. She's done so much in her own ministry. She's a part of an apostolic effort called Life-Giving Wounds, which is healing for adult children who grew up in divorced homes. Because many times, you know, what was told us in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is, if the parents are happier, the kids will be happier, kids are resilient. And, you know, all the psychology is just showing just how deeply wounding that is. And for people when they enter their adult years, especially when they enter serious relationships of their own, that they can it's when they start to realize, I see how this affects me. I see the insecurities, the fears, the anxieties I have. And so she does a number of retreats in this space, and she's just done so much work here. But we're going to be talking about a book that we co-authored together. I think you had us on the show many years ago called Pocket Guide to Prayer.
Yes.
And she also does a lot on prayer and the spiritual life. And I can't wait. I mean, every time I always say this, and it's really true. I'm not just honoring my wife, I am, but when we speak together, everyone's always like, I can't wait to see your Dr. Shree.
It's funny because everybody says the same thing about me and Dom. They want to see me, but then they see Dom and they're like, we want to hear more from him.
Exactly, yeah. They want to hear more from Beth, and she's going to offer like a deep reflection on the depths of prayer. So I think we as Catholics, we have so many devotions and kinds of prayer. We have the Rosary, we have the Divine Mercy Chaplet, Lectio Divina, we have the Liturgy of the Hours, all these beautiful things. But are those just things we just check off the box? I did this for God. I think that's where I might experience it. Meeting many Catholics, you get that sense, okay, I'm doing all these things. But prayer is really a friendship. And she's going to talk about it's a lived relationship day by day, moment by moment. It's not just something we do in the chapel or something I do in my little Bible reading time. We need those times to nourish, just like in a marriage, you need times to connect and go on date night. So we need those times with God too. But am I living from a deep relationship with him? How do I really bring my full self, like with all my hurts, my fears, my joys, my longings, my dreams, bringing my full self to Jesus in prayer and living from that relationship? It's life-changing when you move from more a transactional way of looking at our Catholic faith. I did all these things for Jesus, which are really good things, to, I realize how beloved I am.
Right.
I realize how much he wants my heart, and he wants me to come as I really am. And he can handle my big emotions, my big fears, my big dreams, my big hopes, and he wants our full self. I think that's one thing that she's so good at articulating, better than I am right now, and I can't wait for everybody to get to hear.
But it makes you, though, it's a great topic, because sometimes we're afraid to really surrender, and we hold ourselves back, and so that makes us very vulnerable. But that's the only way you're really going to discover, as St. Catherine of Siena says, when you are whom you're meant to be, you set the world on fire.
Yeah, I think that word you used, Teresa, vulnerability, I think that's one word that she's going to emphasize, because quite frankly, it's also easier in a certain level of hiding behind my Hail Marys, hiding behind my rosary beads, hiding behind my Divine Mercy chaplet, than it is to actually just come as I really am. Because then I have to face certain things about my life, certain things I maybe don't want to look at, whether it's certain sins, ways I've hurt people, certain fears that I have, certain pains and hurts in my life. And maybe I don't want to look there, but God loves us so much. He wants to enter into the depths of who we are, to touch us with his healing love. And that's when prayer really takes off. Not when we just check off the boxes, but when we're vulnerable with him. And there's a real trust and surrender that comes in that. And I think that's the mature kind of Christian life of prayer that Jesus wants for us.
But when you do that, then those beautiful prayers that we do, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, the Hail Marys, all of that can take on even a deeper meaning.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. Beth and I, we pray the Rosary. We do the Divine Mercy Chaplet. We're all about these things, and they're important. Just like date night is important.
Right.
But if all you do is hang out with your spouse on date night and you don't actually just live day in and day out together, and you're not sharing how's your day going, how are the things at work, how are things with the kids, if you're not sharing moment by moment, then date night's just not going to really be that fruitful. Right. And so how do we take it to the next level with Jesus?
It's a relationship. Well, I know you have to go. Thank you for the time. And where do we find you, and how do we keep up with you? Okay,
you can find me on my website, edwardsri.com. That's edwardsri.com. You can find my wife, Beth, at borntodotthis.org. That's borntodotthis.org.
Thanks so much for listening to our interview with Dr. Sri, and we continue a great special edition of Catholic Connection for you this morning. After the break, I'm going to sit down with two of my favorite people, Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio and his son, very involved in this beautiful film, Triumph of the Heart, about Maximilian Kolbe. Now, what's interesting about this is many films have been done in documentaries, obviously, because there's so much incredible material to work with on the life of this great saint and martyr. But this particular film takes a different perspective and a different time frame of the saint's life. So I don't want to give it away. I want to let Marcellino and Anthony D'Ambrosio explain to you why they chose to do this film, as I said, differently in terms of the life of St. Maximilian Kolbe. I think you will really appreciate it. Now, it's a tough topic. I've actually been to Auschwitz. I've done pilgrimages there with groups, and it's something else. We actually stood in the cell of Maximilian Kolbe. But the way they handled the material here and the catalyst for it from Anthony is also a great story, and shows the work of the saints and the impact they can have on people's lives. Now, prior to the interview, I want to share with you a trailer from the film. Obviously, we'll play the audio for you, so to give you a sense of what you're going to hear from Marcellino and Anthony. And then I'm going to share with you some information about another saint who lost her life at Auschwitz. That is St. Teresa Benedicta, or Edith Stein. And I want to share with you why I think you should get an amazing book that includes not only the story of St. Teresa Benedicta, but her sister and other Jewish converts who were also sent to the gas chambers. It's really quite a phenomenal book and has a lot of history in terms of not only what happened there in Auschwitz to these amazing witnesses, but what led them to become Catholic. That's coming up. It's a special edition of Catholic Connection. We'll be right back. back, Catholic Connection. Good to be with you. It's a very, very important movie that's coming out very soon. And I thought it would be wonderful to share it with you so you can sign up for it, fill the theaters, maybe organize a group with your parish, and go see this powerful film, Triumph of the Heart. And it was done by Anthony D'Ambrosio, who directed it, the son of our very own Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio, Dr. Italy. And there's so much about this film and the story that you're going to hear as to why Anthony decided to do this film regarding St. Maximilian Kolbe. But it's very unique in terms of the timing. For example, what portion of his life did they study? Did they reveal in beautiful, powerful detail in this film? So to get a taste of that, I thought we would start by sharing the trailer. And then, of course, the interview is coming up right after this segment with Marcellino and Anthony. But this will give you a sense of the power of this movie and how we all need to never forget what happened in Auschwitz during World War II, but also the saints that came out of that period. In addition to, of course, St. Maximilian Kolbe, there is another saint, Edith Stein, Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, who converted to Catholicism, first Christianity, then Catholicism. And she is connected to Auschwitz as well. And I want to talk a little bit about her. And so hopefully this experience of seeing this film will have us calling on these great saints and martyrs of the Catholic faith. Here is the trailer for the beautiful film, which is being released any day now, right now actually, early this month. And it is something that is connected to our dear friends, Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio, who's the producer, and also his son, Anthony D'Ambrosio, who's the director. Let's take a listen.
Come on.
What are we here to do? To kill? No. We are here to break the will of Poland so the Reich may reset the bone. You know the rules. I will choose 10 of you to starve until the missing prisoner is found or until death. This fun.
I got children now!
I can take his place. I'm Brother Paul!
Don't leave me. Don't leave me, Albert.
Where have you been these past 2 years? To believe in heaven or God? Certainly you couldn't have been living in this world.
That's right. We have our voices. We must hold on to our hope.
Don't give up. Finish the race.
This is not possible. Tell me, how are they still alive?
I believe that somehow on the other side of this savage life, everyone who has gone before us is watching, beholding this moment. Love is the realest thing. No one can take that from us, even now.
We'll triumph in our sorrows and rise.
Oh, gives me the chills. So that is the trailer for the film Triumph of the Heart, in theaters in just under 2 weeks, September 12th. So next up after this segment, we'll be taking a look at this new film with our friend Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio and his son Anthony, who's behind the movie. I mean, it's powerful, folks. I would really recommend you go to the website. Again, we'll talk in more detail about it after this segment, but triumphoftheheart.com. And you know what? Take a group. You can get tickets there. You can fill a theater. You can rent out a theater. What a thing for a parish to do. What a thing for the OCIA class, right? What a thing for young people to see the commitment, the beautiful commitment of St. Maximilian Kolbe in keeping these men filled with hope, basically on death row in Auschwitz. It's just a profound movie. Now, speaking of this, there is another saint that is associated with Auschwitz, and her name is St. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. And what a story. And I want to share with you this book, because if you're going to see the film, Triumph of the Heart, after watching it and praying about what you see and asking for the intercession of St. Maximilian Kolbe, and really I think to pray for peace. You know, the Pope is talking now about peace. And he came out on the loggia when he was elected Pope. was so calming. And Deacon Dom and I were there along the Via della Conciliazione. And he said, "Peace be with you. My peace I leave with you." Just like Jesus, right? Peace be to all of you. That was the first words out of the new Pope's mouth. And he's continuing that, right? And this is what we need to remember when we see all the struggles and all the conflicts in the world. We're worried about what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. Of course, the horrors that we're hearing from Gaza and the situation still with the hostages in Israel that are being held by Hamas. There's so much unrest still. And sometimes you see something like this and you say, why didn't we ever learn our lesson? Man's inhumanity to man and the fallen nature of who we are. But these saints give us so much encouragement. And I think it's very, very wise to study the life of not only St. Maximilian Kolbe, and to go a little bit further into what he gave us and what he left us, especially with his dedication to Our Lady of the Blessed Mother, but also to learn more about Edith Stein, St. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. So I'm going to recommend one of my favorite books, one of the most powerful books I've read. I did the interview with the priest who wrote this book and collected all the information. It's published by Ignatius Press, and it's called Edith Stein and Companions, On the Way to Auschwitz. And so here's a summary. On the same summer day in 1942, St. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, Edith Stein, and hundreds of other Catholic Jews, these were converts to Judaism, converts to Catholicism from Judaism, were arrested in Holland by the occupying Nazi. 113 of those taken into custody, several of them priests and nuns, perished at Auschwitz and other concentration camps. They were murdered in retaliation for the anti-Nazi pastoral letter written by the Dutch Catholic bishops. Now, how many times have you heard over the years, brothers and sisters, think about this, how the Catholic Church didn't do anything to help the Jews during World War II? Really? Well, whenever the church spoke out, what did the Nazis do? They retaliated, and this is a great example of that. The summary of this beautiful book goes on to say, well, St. Teresa Benedicta is the most famous member of this group, having been canonized by Pope John Paul II back in 1998. All of the men and women that were martyred deserved the life and title of martyr from the church. So they were killed not only because they were Jews, but also because of the faith of the church, which had compelled the Dutch bishops to protest the Nazi regime. Through extensive research, the priest, by the way, that put this book together has compiled the martyrs' biographies, several of them detailed and accompanied by amazing, moving photographs. I am telling you, this book is phenomenal. Included in this volume are some remarkable conversion stories, included that of Edith Stein, the German philosopher who had entered the church in 1922 and later becoming a Carmelite nun, taking the name Sister Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. Several of the witnesses chronicled here had already suffered for their faith in Christ before falling victim to Hitler's final solution, enduring both rejection by their own people, including family members, and persecution by the so-called Christian society in which they lived. Among these were also those who, like Sister Teresa Benedicta, perceived the cross they were being asked to bear and accepted it willingly for the salvation of the world. So when you are watching this beautiful movie, which we're going to discuss up next, think about the other saints from that time, in addition to the amazing St. Max, Edith Stein, St. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, and check out this book, Edith Stein and Companions, On the Way to Auschwitz, from our friends at Ignatius Press. Came out in 2010. It's a timeless, timeless history of what happened to these amazing witnesses. We're all about the resources here, as you know, at EWTN, and we have a great resource, not only for you, your family, your school, your parish, but for anyone who is struggling in their faith and wants to learn more about God, or maybe is just struggling. The story of Maximilian Kolbe is one to which so many of us could relate in terms of sacrifice and beauty and love. And how did I find out about this beautiful film, Triumph of the Heart? Well, it just so happens that last year, while Deacon Dom and I were in Italy, Marcellino, my dear friend, Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio, and his beautiful wife, Susan, Marcellino and I were in touch. I forget, we email on a regular basis, and he told me he was going to be leading a group in Umbria. At that point, I hadn't told him that we had purchased a home there. Just so happens his group was literally like 15 minutes away from us, and so we got together, and over dinner, Marcellino was telling me about the film Triumph of the Heart, that his son wrote and directed. And so I ended up interviewing Anthony, if you recall, I think it was last year or earlier this year. And now, thanks be to God, the movie is hitting theaters, and we're so excited to tell you about it. It is so powerful. It is so beautifully shot and directed. We have on the phone with us, or online with us, I should say, our friend from EWTN, of course, his great ministry, our friend, Crossroads Initiative, Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio, also known as Dr. Italy, and his son, Anthony. Thanks to both of you. Anthony, I want to go to you first, because Marcellino, your mom and dad were telling us about your testimony, your story, and you give a summary of this on the website, which is triumphoftheheart.com, about, in the big headlines, how you lost your faith and wanted to die. Just share with us briefly your journey to where you are today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I grew up obviously with a great father and a great Catholic family, and was very excited about my faith. I went to seminary and was launching into ministry in my kind of young adult years. And then I came down with an illness that much later turned out to be a mold infection, a chronic, like, systemic mold infection. But no one knew how to diagnose it. It was causing a lot of strange symptoms, but the most debilitating of those symptoms was a chronic insomnia that allowed me to only sleep for about like 20 minutes to 2 hours a night. And in the midst of that, when you're experiencing such sleep deprivation, you really can't function well. And I lost the person that I loved, that I thought I was going to marry, and my work, my mission, the dream that I had to sort of be a Catholic speaker and musician and go on the kind of Steubenville conferences tour and all that stuff. And ultimately, I had to be sort of face to face with my grief and my emptiness and loneliness every night, really like starving for sleep. And I think that my discovery of St. Maximilian Kolbe's story was a big part of what helped me to find my way out of that dark place.
How did you discover him? I'm sure you heard about him growing up. Did something tell you needed to revisit his story?
Yeah, it was serendipity, and perhaps the saint finding me. I certainly at that time was not looking for a saint in my life. I was very much an atheist and very angry with God. And I was, I would say that the thing that actually got me there was that I had a client project for marketing. I was able to do some freelance writing, and that was the thing that actually put me back in touch with him, because I had to do some research for a biography that I had to do on an article on a website. And when I was doing that, I found some details about his life that were, and his particularly the last few days of his life, that were really shocking to me. I had always heard that he had sacrificed his life for another man, but I had never considered the other men who were in the cell with him and what their experience was. And I began to understand him as a priest who had also undergone this incredibly heroic rescue mission to love and pastor these other men who were in the cell, who in many ways are sort of forgotten to the way that we tell the story, but who had very real lives, who, like I was experiencing, had them just sort of snipped off, seeming for no reason, and who were very angry, and who were going through the kind of grief that I must have been going through, and who were going through even more unimaginable suffering with their starvation. And so as I saw that and began to realize Kolbe was there holding them, singing songs with them, comforting them through this time, and then ultimately that he was not even executed alone, that 4 of those men survived all the way to that 14-day mark with him. I realized that Kolbe had achieved miracles of love inside of that cell that I wanted to have happen inside of my own life. And I began to perhaps be haunted by the story.
Wow. Talking with Anthony D'Ambrosio. He's the writer and director of this beautiful new film, Triumph of the Heart, of course, focusing on Maximilian Kolbe, the great Maximilian Kolbe, St. Max, and also the men in the cell with him at Auschwitz. And also with us is my dear friend and, of course, EWTN colleague, his father, Marcellino, Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio, Dr. Italy. So Marcellino, you kind of touched on some of the challenges that Anthony had when we were having dinner last year, but I can't even imagine what it was like for you and Susan as Catholic parents who are at extraordinary levels in terms of the understanding of the faith and the witnessing that you both do. That must have been a real pain in your heart to watch him lose his faith, and you just had to really just pray, right? Because he's an adult and you can't force him to do anything, right?
Absolutely. It was incredibly painful to watch. Watching your son, your daughter, a child suffer. And I mean, the suffering, the loss of faith came out of a deep, inexplicable suffering that no one at the time, Anthony now shares that it was a mold infection. No one had any idea. It just seemed to be, just absolutely inexplicable craziness. And it was incredibly painful. But I think really prayer was constant and love was constant in the midst of it all. And I not just because not our prayer and not our love, but the whole family was supportive. And I think this movie is about community. Colby built a community, a Christian community in that cell, which is just amazing. And those men ended up supporting one another. And we kind of know that from the testimony of the janitor who you'll see in this movie, and also the people who survived and who heard these guys singing outside the cell, people who were in Auschwitz and were inspired by their example. But the idea of community, of loving and supporting one another, is a key piece of the film, and it's a key piece of our faith. We're not lone rangers when it comes to following Jesus. It's not just about me and Jesus. It's about the community of faith, the body of Christ, the church. We're loving one another, building one another up, supporting one another.
Talking with Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio and, of course, his son, Anthony D'Ambrosio. Anthony is a writer and director, Marcellino serving as the executive producer. So, Anthony, at what point did you decide that this meant so much to you in terms of how the developments with Colby and the men in the cell and what you learned about that, how it helped you? When did you decide, okay, I need to do a film on this?
I think most of the best art in the world isn't really made because it's not really made for an audience. It's really made for the artist. And what I mean by that is I wrote the script because I needed something to do at night. And I needed something that could allow me to sort of take the suffering that I was going through and sort of touch it to the heart of Jesus. And I wrote the script not even fully believing that this would become a movie. I'm a first-time director with this film. This was not something that I had done before. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like for people to contribute the amount of money that was necessary to make a film. At the time, when we ended up raising the funds, we raised about $300,000 to go to Poland and shoot it. And to me, that was like, well, that's a house. How am I going to get somebody to give me a house to make a movie? And so I guess it really was this very slow process of slowly having people find out about the movie, find out about what we were doing, and come on board and encourage me and mentor me. So many different Catholic people in the Dallas area, especially in that kind of Irving UD crew. They call it, I think, the Catholic Silicon Valley out there. So many of those people helped to bring it to bear. Jeff Schechelbein and Nick Besner and the guys with Undivided Life, and of course many others. So it was honestly the encouragement of other more magnanimous, faithful Catholics who saw that God was doing something here that continued to push me to doing something a little bit more crazy and getting more ambitious with it.
So now what happens? Because it's being released, but do you have theaters, or are you looking for people to go in groups, or to make sure you can get it to a theater? How does that work? Because are you going to be distributed, or is this something that has to be done through your ministry?
Yeah, so we are going to be in theaters, but we will be in theaters that are decided upon by the people who do buyouts and
Gotcha.
Ultimately run crowdfunding campaigns to get them out. So right now we're running a campaign that to suggest for people to do buyouts, and then also normally the way that this works is you have to find somebody who's wealthy to put down $1,500 or so, $2,000 to buy out a whole theater. And then once we get the theater, then we'll have it for the whole, the rest of whatever our theatrical release. We'll have more screenings there. But now we've built a process for people to actually be able to just put down something like $90 to start a crowdfunding campaign where they can bring people from their parish to that and reserve tickets and kind of pool the money to go and do that buyout to make it easier for people. So that's basically what we're doing right now. And depending on when this airs, we'll be basically launching in a few weeks.
Okay, so I want to give people the website, triumphoftheheart.com. Triumphoftheheart.com. I mean, it's so beautifully shot, and it gave me the chills. Marcellino, I don't know, have you been to Auschwitz? Have you been to the cell of Maximilian Kolbe? Because I have on a trip. Steve Ray and I were leading a trip through Poland, and I'm telling you what, it just brought back everything. It's just so, it's incredibly powerful. What were your thoughts when you saw the film?
My thoughts, first of all, I've watched the whole thing develop from the very beginning. So I've seen early screenings, I've seen middle of the process screenings, and just recently saw the final. And honestly, totally every single time I am moved to the depths of my being. It is such a powerful spiritual testimony to the glory of God, the power of love, the triumph of the cross. It's funny, it's being released in the weekend of the triumph of the Holy Cross, and that's really what this movie is about. It's not just about suffering, degradation, brutality. It's really about the will of the Nazis could not triumph over the love of the disciple of Jesus Christ, Maximilian Kolbe, and that love was shared by the men in the cell. They were victors. So it's really a victory song. It's a tribute to victory, and it every time I watch any part of it, it moves me. It leads me to tears and leads me to conversion and leads me to prayer. I think that's one of the things about this movie. There's not a lot of Catholic movies out there that have this kind of spiritual depth, that are coming out of prayer. I think personally it's like a moving icon. An icon is supposed to be an encounter, an opportunity for an encounter with God. I think that's what this movie really is for people who come.
Yeah, I do too. Talking with Dr. Marcellino D'Ambrosio, who is the executive producer of this beautiful film, Triumph of the Heart. His son, Anthony, is the director and writer. And the movie is a feature film, but not just about St. Max, which I think is so important, and it's about his companions as well. And what they went through when they were in the cell with him those last few weeks before starvation. Again, the website is triumphoftheheart.com, triumphoftheheart.com, being released in mid-September. You have to check it out, especially to support the beauty of this story of how we are part of a community. As Dr. Marcellino said, we don't do this alone. triumphoftheheart.com. Stay tuned. I certainly hope you enjoyed all the interviews today, giving you some food for thought and also some opportunities to go out there and experience something about your faith and maybe do it a little bit differently. And don't forget to check out the film Triumph of the Heart from Marcellino D'Ambrosio and Anthony D'Ambrosio. What a powerful, powerful film and documentary, really kind of combined about the life of the great Saint Maximilian Kolbe. So tomorrow, Vanessa Den Hagarmo will be sitting in for me on September 2nd, 2025, and she'll be talking about, speaking of pilgrimage and different events, she'll be talking about the Rosary pilgrimage that's coming up, Dominican Rosary pilgrimage. And then also, of course, in the second hour of the program, it will be a Tuesday, so she'll talk with our friend Kelly Solomon from Newman Guide News. Deacon Dom and I are back in Italy, and we are going to be going to do some things immigration-wise, and we have to get what we call the Permesso di Soggiorno, which is a temporary permit that allows you to stay in Italy longer than the 3 months on your passport. So each year, we have to go and reapply. And that's something that I could write a book about in and of itself. I was just telling my producer, Richard, it's quite interesting in terms of the hoops you have to jump through to live and stay in a foreign country. The citizenship situation we're still looking into, but it's very complicated. And as complicated as a temporary permit is, it's a lot easier than citizenship at this point because they changed the rules yet again. Anyway, I digress. So Vanessa has offered to fill in for me because Lord only knows how long we're going to be there at the office trying to get this all figured out. Hopefully I'll be back by Wednesday on September 3rd. Have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day. Ciao, ciao.